Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate here at St. Sabina's in Belton, Missouri. And today's Did You Know question is, what are some of the traditional devotions that the Christians have practiced during the season of Lent? And as we begin Lent on Ash Wednesday, we are encouraged through the readings to exercise three particular devotions. The devotion of prayer, which deepens our relationship with God, the devotion of fasting, which enables us to exercise some discipline in our lives, and the exercise of almsgiving, to show care and concern for others. And these were the traditional practices that came out of the Jewish tradition in their devotional practices to God, and we as Christians took those over and formed them into our own practices and devotions, and they were especially highlighted during the season of Lent. One of the particular aspect of the season came with prayer, particularly with fasting. The days in its early portions during the beginning of the use of the practice of Lent, the days during Lent were strict days of fasting and abstinence. This meant only one main meal with just few little snacks during the other portions of the day, but primarily one main meal and no meat at all for all 40 days. And so the practice began that because there was no refrigeration, one had to get rid of meat and dairy products for over a period of time for the whole season of Lent, and therefore a big party was usually celebrated just a few days before Lent in order to say, literally, what the word came to be known as carnevale, which actually means goodbye to meat. So they had this big celebration in order to empty out their cupboards of all that would distract them during the season of fast and abstinence. And so even to this day, we still have Mardi Gras and even Shrove Tuesday, which is the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, in which one goes to confession in order to reconcile oneself and to begin the season of Lent properly. Other devotions that have been practiced during this season are the Stations of the Cross. Now, the Stations of the Cross were originally begun in the Holy Land, and what would happen is you would actually trace the route of Jesus' passion, death, and his resurrection. And when Christians were no longer able to go to the Holy Land because of many of the Muslim traditions, who became very dangerous to travel to the Holy Land, what happened was that devotion in the actual places in the Holy Land was transferred to the various churches, usually set up outside churches, and then eventually came into the church itself, where a practice of walking symbolically the journey that Jesus did to his passion, death, and resurrection. And so currently, we have 14 Stations of the Cross that are usually celebrated during the season of Lent. Along with that, we also have the need to give up something. That has been the traditional way in which most Catholics have kind of looked at Lent, that I have to give up something as a sign of sacrifice. These days, rather than giving up something, it is recommended that we focus more on the almsgiving portion of Lent, in which we try to do something good for others, go out of our way, give of ourselves to others in service of some sort. And so as a result of that, the giving up is not so much, that I give a candy so I can gorge myself after Easter, but rather that I do something to set my life back in line with Christ. And that's exactly what the whole season of Lent is all about. The whole season of Lent is to renew our commitment to our relationship with Christ and to examine our lives to say, how have we been faithful to that, and where do we need God's help to grow and to deepen in that relationship with Christ? And oftentimes the sacrament of reconciliation becomes that particular way of drawing closer to Christ by examining ourselves and recommitting ourselves to our baptismal call to live as Christ modeled for us. So I hope this answered some of the traditional devotions that we as Christians practice during Lent, and hopefully you will come back to more these Did You Know questions so that you could explore more of your faith and come to greater knowledge of your faith and grow in your faith formation. Thank you very much.